Nearly 25% of the Cambodian population were killed in an explosion of mass violence and genocide lasting 4 years between 1975 to 1979 by the Khmer Rouge guerrilla. Many Cambodians fled their homeland when given a chance and sought refuge in various countries such as the United States. Our special guest on Comfort Kills today is a first-generation Cambodian-American who has taken every opportunity to pursue the ultimate American dream her parents could have ever dreamed of. Niza Oun-Nguyen represented her people as Mrs. Cambodia and was crowned Mrs. Asia USA on November 21, 2019. She was the first Cambodian delegate in the pageant's history to win the title. In her spare time, Niza enjoys spending time with her husband and their 3 beautiful daughters. Hi, Niza. Welcome to Comfort Kills. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hi, Dr. Jazz. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for spending your Saturday here with me today. I'm really appreciative of that. And just for those who don't know, Niza is married into the family. So she's a part of my family, married to my cousin out in California. And I can't be more proud for him to have picked a better wife. And I'm just so happy that you are a part of the family and representing the community, your community in the way that you have been. So many amazing things that you're doing. You have 3 amazing, beautiful little girls, and you're just raising them so well, and I'm just envious of everything that you're doing so far. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Oh, well, thank you so much for the warm intro. I'm so glad to see you and hopefully get to see the family soon. Um, yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm a mother of 3 children, like Dr. Jazz said, and proud wife, and also a working mom. I work in the wealth management industry, but aside from that, I really have a deep connection and passion for inspiring and empowering the Cambodian community. For some of those that don't know, there was a massive killing during the Khmer Rouge regime back in the 1970s, which really affected a lot of the Cambodian Americans that survived, and those repercussions still linger today. So for me, I'm very proud to be Cambodian, and for my parents who were refugees to be able to survive and stay resilient and get to where they're at today. I want to share those stories and empower other Cambodians as well who might be going through similar experiences. I'm the oldest of 4 children, so I felt there was a lot of responsibility and weight on my shoulders growing up to be able to carve that path for my family and for others that look up to me. And I look back at my parents' tragic story about how they were able to endure the torture and the emotional and mental trauma during the Khmer Rouge regime to get me through some of those challenges and obstacles through my life. So I felt till this day that it's important for me to continue to raise awareness in the Cambodian community, but also outside the Cambodian community, because not too many people are aware of what happened and why we're still seeing a low educational attainment rate in the United States for Cambodian Americans, and why, when we compare to other ethnic groups, why the Cambodians may not necessarily make as much money or household income as other Asian ethnic groups. And that really does stem from the fact that the Cambodians that did survive this massive execution came over with nothing. So we've had to work really, really hard to get back on our feet and to get where we're at and deal with the emotional, the mental, and the physical trauma that they endured during that time. So it's something near and dear to my heart, and I'm very proud that many of us were able to get further along. And for those that didn't, we hope that we are able to continue to raise awareness and inspire some hope for them.
Right. Thank you so much for that. And when I was doing a little bit of research to just even get your bio intro completed, I looked it up to see how many Cambodian Americans there were population-wise in the United States. And it said, I think it was between like 2 to 300,000, depending on which website I was looking at. And I'm like, that's a really low number. That's a remarkably low number. And so I felt like I grew up in an area where there was a plethora of Cambodians, and so it never really dawned on me that there was such a low number. And so I was like, well, in comparison to Vietnamese American,
what are the numbers? I look at Vietnamese American, it's like 1.7 million, and I'm
Mhm.
just like, that's insane, the difference between that. So when you and I had this conversation in the past about just the disparities that the Cambodian American community has with the upbringing and the pursuing higher education, it didn't even dawn on me. But when you said that, of all the Cambodian friends that I did have growing up, I think I could list like one or two who went on to do more and get a higher education and went into different areas and industries. But the rest of them, I have no idea where they went. They like kind of fell off the map, and some joined the military, which is great because that's a career in itself. But then even when they exited the military, I have no idea what they did after that. So it was baffling to see that, and then to see the stark numbers and difference between what Cambodian American population looked like versus like Vietnamese American, just for comparison. I can only imagine, compared to even other like Chinese Americans and Filipinos and whatnot, just what the population statistics look like in differences when we're all on a pie chart together. So
Exactly, exactly. I was astonished myself. I grew up in the majority of my childhood was in Utah, and so I was surrounded by um, Caucasians that didn't look anything like myself, and I knew I
yeah.
could count off on the top of my head like how many Cambodians were in the community, and it was a very small number.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought maybe when I moved to California, I'd probably see a bigger number because I've heard that there's a bigger population of Cambodians in Long Beach, Fresno, Stockton. And granted, there are, but when you compare it against other Asian groups, like you mentioned, the numbers are actually very small in comparison. And um, that's not surprising again when you think about the history and the fact that a quarter of the population was wiped off the planet back in the 1970s. And a lot of those people that were first targeted during this mass genocide were the educated, the elite, the religious, the musicians. All of those people, they were actually considered enemies of the state. So if you were in any of those categories and your parents were in any of those categories, you were targeted. So either you had to lie about your identity and stay undercover, or you were likely to be killed off. And that was really the sad truth about it all. And so those that were able to come over to America, they were stripped of everything that they had, right? And really had to start from scratch. And that meant working in the back of some of these kitchens. My mother worked as a janitor, picking gum under the table. My dad was a blue collar worker, and that's not uncommon when you talk to other Cambodian families. You had to set away your pride because now you've been left with nothing and you're just looking for some way to put food on the table. And if that meant doing any desperate job, then you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's insane, and very true for many refugees that join this country and enter this country with a dream, but then realizing that we're starting back at square one, have absolutely nothing under our belt, nothing for our name, nobody knows who we are, and like one of the things that my mom had that she was strong in was she was a seamstress. And so in Vietnam, she was a very, in her mind and in her perception and her words, a very well-known seamstress. So one of the things that
Mhm.
she ended up doing was she created um, we worked from home for a very long time, where she worked from home for a very long time doing side gigs after coming home from the sewing factory to do side gigs on the side, sewing clothes for
Mhm.
people as well out of our apartment. And then eventually got to the point where they were able to buy a home. We had a basement. She turned the basement into a shop. And
Wow.
then eventually the basement shop became a full-fledged brick and mortar. But she always very strongly stood by the name um, House of Hing, basically, and translated from Vietnamese. And so she was known for that. And then it was really surprising because, growing up, I'm just like, whatever, mom, you're just showing off. You're just, gloating about whatever history and past you thought you had in Vietnam that you don't have here. But sure enough, people found her and people were like, I knew about you back in Vietnam.
Wow.
And I was like, that's pretty cool. That's
It
pretty cool. So
is.
so it hurts me to hear that. It hurts me to hear that there is that that the separation of like, now the reality is you no longer have everything that you came with anymore, and so all you have
Mhm.
is your pride and your reputation, and you got to make ends meet. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really hard for families who worked really, really hard to ensure that their families had the best of everything in Cambodia, only to be all taken away, that had been completely out of their control. So for those that survived, I think about my father, who was from an educated class. Yeah, I felt I was able to take on that responsibility and fulfill his legacy in pursuing, not only my bachelor's, but my 2 master's degrees subsequent to that. But I think about my father, who would have loved to complete his education in Cambodia and even in America, but he did not have that opportunity to do that. So I felt there is some sense of responsibility for the children to preserve their family's legacy, because
Right.
they did not get that opportunity decades ago. But how do you do that in this environment when everything is expensive and you kind of feel disconnected from the community? You don't know where all of the
Right.
Cambodians are, where all the successful Cambodians are, where do they get the resources and the mentorship
Yeah.
from? So that is an area that I'm really, really hoping to tackle, to be able to connect and empower the Cambodian community, because that is something that I wish I had growing up, being able to
Yeah.
connect with other Cambodian families that may have gone through similar experiences, so that we can help cope and heal together,
Mhm.
especially for the older generation as we're continuing to age. I
Yeah.
think it's more important now than ever to preserve their stories before it's too late.
Right, right. And I think too, now that you're saying all that, it's triggering this thought that, the Vietnamese community became so large and so strong in a way that they were able to have more things translated, as in
Mhm.
school documents were starting to be translated towards the end of my school education. The naturalization exam and paperwork was translated into Vietnamese. The driver's license started, all that applications and stuff were being translated into Vietnamese towards like the end of the 90s, the late 90s. And so I'm wondering, like, did Cambodians ever have that same opportunity where they had such a big, strong network that they were able to have those types of
We're we're
translations out?
we're seeing some improvement, and quite a bit of, I guess, government documents or forms. We're starting to see a lot more translations
That's good.
into Khmer, which is the native tongue of Cambodia. But yeah, I mean, we're still far from where we want to be in terms of um, the same level of exposure and accessibility like the other Asian groups that the Cambodians
Mhm.
are so far from. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but yeah, I think there's been some improvement. There's been some really vocal voices in the Cambodian
Right.
community, which makes me really, really proud to see. But there's
Yeah.
still quite a lot more work to be done.
Right, right. Wow. All right. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's just discuss, like, who are you and what have you done with yourself and just your academic successes so far. I know you've done a lot and you are a crazy hustler that, you're on my level of crazy when it comes to hustling and education and academics. So
And that's
please.
why we're family, Dr. Jazz.
Yes.
Yeah, my husband jokes that I can never not do something. Like, I always have to stay busy, but I think that's what keeps me going is, again, going back to my Cambodian roots, just being able to appreciate and be grateful for all of the abundance and the blessings that I have in my life, and the opportunities that are available to us here in America. So, um, I love academics. No matter whether I have kids or I've been working, I've always found myself to stay engaged in learning. And right now, I'm actually taking 2 classes in traditional formal Khmer language and writing. So I'm doing that right now. But in the past previous years, I've accomplished 2 master's degrees, several professional designations to support my career as a wealth manager. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to why I'm doing all of this. And again, I just felt like being a female, being a mother of 3 daughters, and being Cambodian, I felt every responsibility and obligation almost to continue to go to school, to keep learning. And so I'm always looking ways to grow and share my insights with others that could benefit from it. So I don't know if I'll end up going back to school full time, but there's hopes down the road where I do want to pursue a PhD someday. But right now, I think I'm being a part-time teacher here during the COVID times with my 3 daughters and juggling my career as a full-time wealth manager. But I also do have some passion projects that I'm also really excited about, that was me some, I guess, purpose and meaning to my life as being a Cambodian-American.
Yeah, awesome, amazing. So let's go into the pageantry area of things in your life and how that even got started. I know when we talked about this, I was very just amazed with the story of how you got started and the bravery and the courage that it took you to step outside of your comfort zone and accept the role as Mrs. Cambodia. And just tell us a little bit about how the approach happened, how it came about, and then even just leading up to Mrs. USA, Mrs. Asia USA.
Yeah, it was interesting how it all happened. I actually just had my 3rd daughter, and what
Good.
I a little bit optimistic, right? Right after the 3rd daughter, but I think that was even more reason why I felt the need to raise awareness about being a proud Cambodian American, and more so because I'm a mother of 3 daughters. I wanted to show my children that, hey, you can be a mom, you could be a working mom, you could be a wife and still accomplish all these things, right? You can still go to school, you can still be involved in pageants, philanthropy, work, what have you. And so after the 3rd daughter, I looked a little bit into the world of pageantry, right? I've never been exposed to it in my life. This is my first pageant ever. But I felt this underrepresentation of Cambodian Americans in every pageant that I looked at. And it's like, there's something wrong with this. I really want to raise awareness about Cambodian Americans, their accomplishments, and inspire hope for the younger generations. I had no intent to participate in a traditional beauty pageant, right? Not to say there's anything negative about that, but I really wanted to celebrate more about the culture and the heritage more than just expressing outside beauty and participate in a swimsuit pageant, if you will. So I found Virgilia Productions, and it really was a great experience because it really allowed me to showcase the Cambodian culture through our national costume. Every headpiece and jewelry and color was carefully designed with a lot of intent. And then it gave me the opportunity to show my children how to walk with confidence, walking in an evening gown or a swimsuit after having 3 children. And yes, I don't have, your perfect model body, but at the end of the day, you should be proud of your body, regardless of what size you are. And being a mother and a mother of 3 children and a wife, you're not too old to do that. I think confidence is beautiful, regardless of your age. And I wanted to show that to my children, who seemed very proud of their mom. So it was a really great experience for me because it allowed me to get more comfortable with my body, myself. And more importantly, I was able to raise awareness about the Cambodian culture. And I'm very proud to say I was the first Cambodian to win the crown, which I'm really, really proud. And hopefully I can see younger generations also represent the Cambodian community.
Absolutely. And we are so proud of you, and I know your daughters have to be. I know that maybe one day they're going to look back and they're going to be a mother themselves, and they're going to be a wife, and they're going to be a student, and they're going to be a full-time, contributor to the community. And they're going to realize, how did my mom do all of this, And even then, at that time, like 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, they're going to realize what kind of superwoman you are, because you're just incredible.
Thank you.
And yes, when I saw the announcement that you were competing, I was just like, she just had a baby.
The same thing too. Don't worry. His eyes were like, what?
She just had a baby. I was like, I'm like 15 years out from having a baby, and I couldn't do that. No, there was just like, wow, you are so you're such a go-getter. And I love that about you. That is just like whatever there is out there that you just feel like you're appropriate for, or that you can do better, that you just go and do it. And that's pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing that can happen is someone says no, or you don't win, right? And then you move on. But I think you're always going to beat yourself up if you don't try. And that's kind of my outlook at life. If you don't try, you might have that regret or question, what if he tried, or what if he did do it? And so for me, it's just having that peace of mind that, hey, I at least explored it and it's something off my bucket list. And if in the meantime, during that process, I inspired a hope in somebody else, then I feel really good about that, and
Yeah.
really fulfilled. So and truth be told, I give a lot of credit to my husband, who helps tremendously with the kids. Obviously, there's not enough hours in the day to do what I want to do with all my projects, work, and being a
Yeah.
part-time teacher at home. So I give a lot of credit to my husband, Merrick, who helps me a lot with the kids. And I think we're a good team when it comes to the workload, as well as my sister, who also helps out with the kids as well. So I can't take all the credit, but it does help to have a good support system around you, and that allow you to really
Yeah.
go after your dreams and goals.
Right, right. And this is it's such an important message to little girls out there who are listening, is just how important it is to find the right person and the right
Mhm.
circle of people and the right village to help you, because
Absolutely.
you don't have to be a victim of your surroundings. You can choose and decide what path you want to go and who you want
Right.
to be involved in your life. And with the right circle of people, you can do so much more. And I have to say the same, with my family. And then, like, we're a military family. My husband retired a couple of years ago, but we never really had that network of family around us. But just having my husband support me, having the
Mhm.
kids being like just totally open to, all right, mom's going down another venture of doing whatever she's doing again. and and it's important, and it's great, because that's, it's your choice, and you can decide when it's appropriate and when it's no longer
Mhm.
appropriate, and you can walk away from it. So that is incredible. Saying that it takes a village is so cliche, but that's truly what it is.
It
It
really
truly
is
is.
true. It really is true, and the reason why I wanna stress that is because if you don't accept help or allow yourself to get help, then you might
Mhm,
overstretch and overcommit yourself and get drained and burnt out, and
mhm,
at the end of the day, us mothers and wives, we set the tone for the family, right? So we wanna make sure we take care of ourselves mentally,
mhm.
physically, emotionally, and
Yeah,
there will be times where you should ask for help,
right.
because we all need a healthy version of ourselves so that the rest of the family can be a healthy version of themselves,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. Yes, of course. Of course. Now, Niza, so you were reigned as Mrs. Asia during the 2019-2020 period. How did the pandemic affect your period, and what were you able to do, or what were some of the restrictions, or that 2020 brought about?
Yeah, I think 2020 was certainly unprecedented times, right? Because
Yeah.
normally, we would be out and about, making a lot of, visits and appearances at a lot of nonprofits and events, but obviously
Mhm.
with 2020, we did not have that opportunity to do that, so we had to get a little bit creative as to which type of appearances and organizations we're able to support and in what capacity.
Mhm.
Um, like myself and other queens, we did do some virtual events, or we supported through other means, whether it be through um, sharing posts, or some actually physically appeared in person, just social distancing at some of the nonprofit events. So we had to get really creative about how many of the queens, like myself, so there's a Mrs. Asia USA, we have Miss Asia USA, Mrs. India USA, and a couple of other queens to kind of stagger out their appearances in the different events. But because of that pandemic, we actually are going to extend our reign for the rest of 2021 until we
Okay.
crown the new queen, because it really did affect our ability to serve the community the way we wanted to, because of the pandemic in 2020. So hopefully, when
Okay.
we see a little bit of stability with the
Yeah.
coronavirus cases this year, we're able to get out, and make more appearances, support our community more, than we were able to last year. But I think that's kind of the same theme that a lot of other folks are
Yeah.
dealing with last year, and hopefully after a couple months, we'll be able to get more comfortable in going out into the public and make some more appearances.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's great. Congratulations for the extension then.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if that's a congratulations or not, but just, I'm sure it's a joy. And I know that you've got this like sisterhood community that,
Thank
like if
you.
every woman would just envy. And I think it's incredible that you have this network of women who are all along the same mindset as you when it comes to wanting to serve and give back to the community, and just being there to help create change and drive change in the community. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about 2021. We're optimistic that this year will be a much better year than 2020.
Yes, it has to. Hope is
Has to.
palpable, and I am very excited for things to start moving
Yeah,
along.
me too.
Sure. So, how do you balance motherhood and your career and your status as queen and coronavirus? And what are some of the things that you do to help balance all of this?
Yeah, in addition to what I mentioned earlier is having a village around you, or just a few people that you can lean on when you need that help. And I know that that term where we always say balance work life. For me,
Mhm.
honestly, I don't think you'll always have that balance 100% of the time, right? Something's got to give
Yeah.
depending on the type of opportunity or event, right? So, for example, I might have a really busy week next week, so I might have to lean in a little bit more on my husband to help with the kids while I focus on work. And then the following week, I might be a little bit lighter in terms of my workload, so I might have more time with my kids. And the
Mhm.
reason why I say that is because for a long time, I beat myself up for not always keeping that balance between work and life. And the reality
Mhm.
is, no matter how much you want to plan and organize and structure, life throws you some curveballs occasionally, right? And you kind of have to pivot and adjust. And so the more I let go of that control and the need to have everything laid out by the T, and by the hour, it made it easier for me and took that pressure off myself because I'm just almost kind of going with the flow, but in an organized way, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
it's being able to lean on help, but also giving yourself some flexibility to pivot and adjust. Um, and the next point that I also want to make in keeping myself sane through all of these different projects and work and motherhood and
Mhm.
being a wife is giving ourselves the time for self-care. And I couldn't
Mm.
stress this more because in 2020, I think all of us went through some level of stress or
Mhm.
anxiety or um, yeah, I think nervousness in 2020. And if it wasn't for 2020, I probably would not have given myself the opportunity to focus on self-care. Because
Mhm.
before then, I was always um, so occupied with the idea of getting ahead in my career, focusing on my next goal, my next project, my next client. And I never really gave myself that opportunity to just pause and allow myself to
Mhm.
recharge. And I
Yeah.
think in some way, I thank 2020 because it actually forced me to do that,
Mhm.
forced me to pause and then um,
Yeah.
actually get introduced to this various forms of meditation. I
Right.
thought that wasn't something I needed prior to 2020. I thought, hey, I'm fine. I'm this go-getter. I don't need that. I don't have time for that. I never even gave myself more than a minute or 2 minutes to even consider meditating, right? I was always going from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
And then what I realized in 2020 is that I was getting so much, I guess, anxiety or nervousness from working in the wealth management industry at that time, given the erratic stock market and all of that,
Yeah.
that I said,
Mhm.
I really need to take care of myself. I'm going to be able to take care of my family. So
Right.
what started off as a 5-minute daily meditation turned into 10 minutes, turned into
Yeah.
15 minutes to now
Yeah.
an hour a day
Oh,
sometimes.
wow. Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of time taking out of your day, but it's not when you compare it to the rest of your day or how
Mhm.
long it'll help you preserve your longer
Yes.
longevity,
Yeah.
right? Because you
Exactly.
really need
Exactly.
to worry about your mental, physical, and emotional state of mind. So I felt a huge difference and a huge mind shift when I started the daily meditations and focusing on self-care. And so for all the working mothers out there or those that are juggling multiple things, I highly urge you to take even a couple minutes, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, to just take a moment and meditate because it
Mhm.
does make a huge difference. I personally like to start my days in the morning with meditation because I feel like that sets the tone for the rest of the day. I feel less stress, less anxiety, less irritability. Even my husband even says he notices a difference where I'm not so moody all
Ah,
the time. So he can attest to the big change in me in terms of my personality and um, my
good.
lack of moodiness now. So it's been a great shift for me and my relationship with my family.
That's really awesome. And I've interviewed quite a few meditation coaches in the past, and one of the things that's super universal about all of them is that it really doesn't matter how much time, right? Because sometimes I think people hear an hour, that's a really long time, but really that's just an hour that you felt like doing in that day. It doesn't necessarily have to be an hour every single time. It just, there are so many free meditation apps out there that I have on my phone
Mhm.
right now that all you
Yeah.
can do is, you can listen to somebody talk for a minute. You can listen to just music for a minute. You can listen to just nature sounds for a minute. But these apps are created to help facilitate this meditation period for you. And it could be a
Mhm.
minute, it could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be the entire day. But whatever it is, like you can set aside time to do that. Like in the morning is when I like to do it. If I
Mhm.
feel slightly stressful, my Apple Watch likes to remind me to take some time to breathe. That's another meditation moment, even though
Mhm.
it's, not as formal. You don't have to stop everything, sit, and then, get into a different position or a different place or a different setting. You can stop wherever you are and
Yeah,
recharge and meditate at that time. And I think that's a really important message is that you don't have to have a perfect setting for that to happen.
exactly, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Dr. Jazz, because, yeah, I think that a lot of people get this misconception about what meditation looks like. You don't have to sit in,
Yes.
like, a yoga position on a
Uh-huh.
mat and do that, although sometimes I like doing that just to really get into the state, but you're absolutely right. Being a mother of 3, sometimes I don't have that opportunity, right? And so how do I meditate in different ways or creative ways? And you're right. I could be at the dinner table or eating breakfast and just allow myself to be mindfully present just for a couple of minutes and just putting on some nice nature music or even instrumental music, but just allowing yourself to unplug from your regular daily tasks, especially work, is
Yes.
extremely helpful. Is just allowing our eyes to um, move away from the screen for a little bit and allow your
Mhm.
mind to just pause for a little while, because what happens is if you don't, you end up taking that with you to bed. And for those that
Mhm.
might relate, you start to think about work in your mind, in your dreams. You might even see work. You wake up
Yeah.
thinking about work. And so the best way to tackle that is really through um, meditation, and that does take practice. So yeah, I encourage a couple minutes a day, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, wherever it's convenient for you.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it because it does make the biggest difference. And you'll see that as you continue to, practice daily for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I think that's incredibly important. People need to
Yeah.
hear that, and it's great advice. So thank you. All right. So also mentioned too in your bio that saying no is okay. So can you just kind of express about when did you realize that saying no is okay? Because I find saying no, like growing up, saying no was very hard, and I think
Yeah.
even now I struggle from time to time. So when did you realize, and are you are you like kind of in the same boat as I am, where like sometimes you're just like, oh, but I really do need to get involved in this to get it done right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, right? And I think I agree with you. Saying no is very hard, especially growing up in an Asian family where,
Mhm.
as a female Asian, you're almost encouraged to say yes or to please the family. You don't want to
Mhm.
offend anybody or insult
Yeah.
anybody indirectly by saying no. But what I realize is that those that love you and those people that care about you are not going to take that personally. They might at the beginning,
Mhm.
right? If you've committed yourself or overstretched yourself and you can't make an event or can't commit to helping them financially. Um, in the long run, those that really care about you and love you will understand, because at the end of the day, your health is important, your mind is important, and I'm sure many of us have already given so much of ourselves to other people that you really need to draw boundaries for yourself, because if you don't, then you're going to drain yourself again, and it's going to leave you disgruntled, irritable, angry, resentful. So what I found out, and to your question earlier, when did I find out it was okay to say no? And I think it came back to 2020, right? There were so many things kind of coming at me all at once, and I realized I can't tackle everything all at once. You know, I really need to prioritize what really matters to me. Being much older, much wiser now, I've realized that I can't say yes to everybody, whether it be helping them financially or going to all these events or participating in more projects. And I realized I really have to be going into something with intent. Does it give me purpose? Does it give me fulfillment? I want to make sure I'm really true and authentic to something if I'm going to commit to something. And those that, like I said, that care about you will understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And they know too that what you're doing is right for you because they saw it coming and they see a need for it as well. So that's excellent. So what are you most proud of?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is being a mom, and a mom especially to 3 beautiful children who are extremely resilient through the 2020 pandemic, seeing their mom work a lot of hours and still being happy children. I'm a part-time teacher for them in the mornings as well for their virtual school. So I think the fact that I'm able to balance work while being a mother to 3 young children during a pandemic, being able to also serve as the Mrs. Asia USA Queen, and then also participate in these passionate projects that I love, it really brings me a lot of joy and a lot of fulfillment. So I'm definitely proud of those accomplishments, but I think being a mother and being able to show my children that, yeah, you can do anything that you want, especially because you're here in America, and regardless of whether you're Cambodian, females, you can do it. And here is an opportunity for you to take advantage of all of the different things that you want to take advantage of here in America. So I'm hoping that, as my kids get older, they'll remember, wow, mom was able to do this and this and this. And so why can't I? So that's something I hope that they'll remember, and continue to take advantage of all the, the forthcoming opportunities as they get older.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the things we, fear as parents, right? Is like, am I doing enough to set a great example for my kids? And I know, like, sometimes I tell my kids, I'm just like, you have to do this, this, and this, and they're like, but mom, I'm not you. And I feel like maybe I'm adding too much pressure to them. And so there's a balance that I have to practice as well when it comes to just raising them and making sure that they become good, contributing members to the community, and knowing that I can't push them too much. They have to find their own passion and their own joy and do whatever they do with intent. And so that's incredibly important. And that's something I have to constantly remind myself. But I think that you've set the bar very high for your girls, and I think they have a very excellent role model to look up to. And and even like the girls, not just your 3 girls, but like really just the girls in our family in general. We have so many girls.
I'm so excited.
There's lots and lots of girls in the family, right? We have lots of little nieces, and so they're all looking at you like, wow, Auntie Niza can do that, and so it's like, if you can do that, you can do anything. And that's one of the things that, like, I say to like one of our cousins here, is just, we're often talking about like how great, we're always using these family examples. We're not saying these idolized people, celebrities that are on TV that you hear about, but you'll never ever meet in your life because they're just like way up there, they're too famous. And we're talking about real world family members who are in our family now, not just people in our community, like people in our family. And I thank you so much for being such a great add to the family that Merrick did really well with you.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'll say the same thing to you, Dr. Paz. I mean, you are certainly an inspiration to our family and others in the Vietnamese community. You also came from a humble home and really, really thrived through all the adversity, all the challenges that were kind of thrown your way as well. So so deeply impressed and proud to have you as my cousin as well.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about some of the projects that you're working on. You've mentioned you've got a few passion projects out there. I know I saw something very recently in the media that you were posting about. So let's speak about that.
Yeah, one of the passion projects that I really am excited to share is a project called Cam from Nothing, and it really is um, aimed to connect and empower the Cambodian community and really share the stories of the Cambodian genocide survivors and their experiences, how they were able to um, overcome the hardship, and also how they were able to inspire other folks in the community to
Yeah.
do better. So I'm really excited to connect a lot of the genocide survivors and hope that maybe we'll able to raise more awareness around the Cambodian community. Also connect the businesses that are Cambodian owned here in the United States, because
Yeah.
what I found is that there are successful Cambodian Americans, but we just haven't really allowed ourselves to elevate each other as much as I'd hope. And I want to be able to continue to raise awareness for them and promote their
Yeah.
businesses and support their growth. Um,
Right.
and so that the younger generations that are Cambodian Americans can also inspire to be entrepreneurs as well. And so I'm really excited to launch that project in February. So check out www.camfromnothing.com. And I'm really thrilled to hear about all of the stories. I've already interviewed several families already, and it's just
Wow.
really heartbreaking to hear their tragic stories of survival and their experiences trying to assimilate to the US culture. It was extremely difficult, similar to my family's story.
Mhm.
And so I think it will definitely open up a lot of people's eyes, and reminds me why I should be grateful for, where I'm at today, and how blessed I am to have the things that I have, because these survivors were stripped of everything that they had, and they really had to start from scratch. So,
Mm.
um, a lot of respect to the elder generation who survived what I can't even fathom this day could happen. But I think it made us a lot stronger, a lot more resilient, and I hope that with this project, we're able to empower the younger generation to support each other, because our community is small, as we spoke earlier.
Mhm. Wow. So what platform are you going to be doing Camp from Nothing on? Is it a book platform? Is it a video platform? I would love to know more.
Yeah, so on the website, we'll have several blogs and videos and interviews of the survivors, but hopefully down the road we'll also include a podcast for either the families or the survivors themselves that want to recount and share their stories about their survival, and kind of where they're at now. But we'll have an Instagram, a Facebook, YouTube, and then also the main website that you can check out for the latest posts and the latest interviews.
Mhm. Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Well, thank you. I'm really excited about that. When I saw it pop up, I just thought that it was a really necessary project to happen, and I think there's so many things out there that people don't realize. And this is actually a discussion that I myself and another cousin had the other day, was that there's a lot of Asian American history on top of that just hasn't even been discussed. And so much
Mhm.
less the Asian history and where we came from, right? So even in just Asian American culture within the US, there's so many history that just has been hidden when it
Mhm.
came to segregation and everything else that we still don't know about, and schools don't teach about it because it just wasn't important enough to them, or it wasn't,
Right.
we weren't large enough of a population for us to really speak to it. But there's so much more that we don't know about yet. So I think you are starting at a really great starting point to just begin sharing those survivor stories, because it's incredibly important, and it's going to be really, it was intense for me to just do like a bio intro for you speaking about that. And I just like, how do I say this so that it's well said, or how do I represent this in a way that doesn't seem like it's just me over glorifying it or anything. Like, I really
Mhm.
wanted to make sure I gave the right sense of vibe to it. And so I think this project that
You
you're
did.
doing is incredibly incredibly
You did.
important.
Yeah, it's a really, really sensitive topic, and it's it's almost uncomfortable for me to even ask some of these elders because it's almost forcing them to relive such a traumatic
Mm, mhm,
part of their life that they've compartmentalized in their mind for so many decades.
mm, yeah.
But I think with 2020, it really accelerated my desire to do this project because we know now that tomorrow's not always guaranteed. And with this pandemic hanging around and the survivors aging, I want to make sure I do the honor for these families and preserve their legacy before it's all gone, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think the more we share our stories with each other, the more that we can empower each other and connect with each other, and build a community around identity and similar experiences. So I'm really excited for it, and I feel this is something I've been wanting to do a long time. So I'm thrilled to be able to launch this in February.
Yeah. No, congratulations. I'm very excited and I can't wait to see where this goes because
No.
there's so much important Cambodian history here that we're going to be able to dig into and you know and one of the things I can say just from my experience with speaking with trauma survivors on the show is just Niza, feel free to know that if they're coming to you to tell their story, it's because they're wanting to share it. And so don't feel apprehensive about it. Don't feel like you're digging into a wound that was already healed. They're ready and
Mhm.
they're at a place in their lives where they're ready to share it. Sometimes you may reach out to them, they may be really excited and they don't come back and respond.
Mhm.
And I think it's because at that time they pump the brakes and they're like, maybe I'm not quite ready like I
Yeah.
thought I was. But then others who are able to join the platform and share their stories, it's because they're ready to share. And I can only imagine the stories that you're going to hear because even just like my parents growing up near the Cambodian border, like I remember the things that my mom used to say, what that she would witness or hear about that would happen
Mhm.
at the Cambodian temples. And so it's just insane that things like this would be happening on religious grounds to
Yeah.
boot, you know? And so it's just, I can only imagine. And I am so thrilled that you're doing something like this to give Cambodian people a voice and to bring this history to light
Mhm.
because I think it's buried for too long and it's
Yep,
time.
I think so too. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it, and I'm, you know, eager to hear a lot of the survivor stories, but I'm also, nervous to almost listen to them because it'll be heartbreaking, right? But I think you're right. It's something that we need to share with each other because this happened just not too long ago. It's only a few decades since this has happened.
Mhm.
And for as much as we can show our respect and our appreciation to the elders and be kind to them for maybe not necessarily giving us all the things that we wanted growing up, but now looking back and seeing how little they had and did the best that they could at the time, I
Yeah.
think might change our perspective on how we treat our elders and how we look at life because I think for the first generation here in America, we are blessed beyond measure compared to what our elders had to endure during the Khmer Rouge regime.
Yeah, of course. Wow. All right, Nisa. So let's lighten the topic a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
moving on, but so much more to come in the future, and just ready to see that happen. And
Yeah.
you know, all the best to you with that endeavor because it's an important one for sure. You are rewriting. You're not rewriting, but you are rewriting. You are resurfacing history. You know, as we speak, and I
Yeah.
think it's so important. So, all right. So, what is one of the most difficult decisions you've had to make to fulfill your own destiny?
I think one of the most difficult decisions, I've had a couple of difficult decisions, right? And that again goes back to me juggling life as a mother, a working
Mhm.
mother, and also trying to pursue multiple degrees
Mhm.
while having children and
Yeah.
working full time. And I think for many that know me, they try to warn me of how much work it might be, and I think even some doubted my ability to juggle a full time job in wealth management and managing
Mhm.
children, and then making that commitment to go and pursue my MBA in finance, and then a second degree after that for my master's in entrepreneurship. But
Mhm.
um, I knew it was those were the right decisions for me because I absolutely love education. I think the hardest part of it though is um, taking the time away that I would have otherwise had with my children at such a very young age. And these are the years where they grow the fastest, right? So it's that commitment to doing well in school, but at the same time, you're now taking away time that you've had with, with your children. So obviously there was some mom guilt there because I'd be spending things on campus when my 1-year-old or 2-year-olds would be at home with grandma or with my husband at the time. So you do beat yourself up a bit, but I know it was short term, right? There was light at the end of the tunnel. These were 2-year programs or 3-year programs that I know will come fast, but you do give up that extra quality time or that extra hour that you would otherwise have with your children. But like I said, going back to that balance, you commit yourself to going to school during the week, weeknights, and then the weekends you unplug and you make sure you spend that quality time with your children and be mindfully present 100%. So, I got through that. But yeah, those were definitely difficult years. I felt that mom guilt all the way through with all 3 of my children. I've always been in some type of academic program with all 3 of my children while working. So certainly difficult, but I know that was also me trying to make myself happy, right, and not give up my personal goal to always grow and learn. And I think that's again helpful for my relationship with my family because it's so much about my identity is, personal and professional growth. So I again credit my family, my husband for allowing me to pursue all my dreams.
Right. So Niza, I will tell you from my experience, I did my undergrad, my graduate, and my doctorate all while having kids. And that was one of the things that I had to was mom guilt. And I felt like especially when I was in nursing school and the kids so when I graduated from nursing school, Celeste was 4 and Jaden was 6. And so pretty young. So the whole 4 years of their lives that they can remember, because Jaden was only 2 when I already went back from undergrad, was they were just, I was always in school and I was always studying and I was always going back to campus to do study groups and participate in that in order for me to successfully get good grades and actually get out of this program.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I said to one of the girls, because they were all younger than me, was just, I feel so bad that I have to leave my kids all the time to come here and study, but I can't do this at home because, there's too much noise going on. I just can't focus like I should. And she said to me, you know what, Jasmine, my mom went to school too when I was young, and she tells me all the time how bad she felt. And I will tell you 100%, I don't remember any of it. And I was just like, oh, really? She goes, I don't remember any of it. I just remember my mom was a great mom growing up. That's all I remember. I don't remember the night that she was gone for school. And so I'm like, okay, put it in the back burner, whatever. That's just her opinion. And then this past weekend, we went back to North Carolina to visit our old stomping ground. And we drove through, we went to visit their old elementary school, their old middle schools. And one of the things we drove past was the playground that I used to take the kids to all the time. I would literally take the kids to the playground every single day, sit at a picnic table, let the kids run off and play in the playground area while I'm studying with looking at them out of the corner of my eye and just letting them run off and play. And they were 3 and 5, just running off and playing on their own. And I'm watching them and then I'm studying, then watching them. And I said to Celeste, Celeste, do you remember when I used to take you to this playground every single day and I would just sit there and study on my books? And she's like, no. My 15-year-old was like, nope, don't remember that. Not at all. So I'm just like, oh. So all this time I had this mom guilt inside me. And my daughter's finally telling me now, last week in 2021, that she wasn't fazed by it at all. She doesn't remember it, but she's the one that I really she was a year old when I started school. So she was the one that I really felt like I neglected her. And she was like, no, Mom, you didn't, you've always been there. And I know when you're studying and, you wanted to do what you wanted to do. And I get it, and it teaches me that I have to be as resilient. But she goes, but I know I'm going to make sure I finish school before I have kids. So I was like, all right.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's so good to hear because I think as moms, we oftentimes put excess pressure on ourselves and that mom guilt never always goes away, right? And I think that just really just shows how much we love our children. But you're right. It's always nice to hear another woman's perspective who've gone through similar experiences because I for years, wondered if it would have been different if I didn't go to school or if I allowed myself to be fully present with my kids 100% of the time. But you're right, these kids are young, they're resilient. And it really just matters how you interact with them today, right? And I'm glad that I was able to power through all of those years of education. I don't plan on going back to school full time in the near future. Probably take a couple classes here and there, but I think it's also important to show our kids that we can do multiple things outside of just being a mom. And I think it's healthy for us to as well, because we're not just wrapped up with hearing mommy all day, mommy, 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 right? I think it gives us a little bit of a mental break when we are able to allow ourselves to immerse in school or other projects. I think it's just healthier relationships with everybody in the family.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Niza. So if I gave you a billboard, what would you put on the billboard?
If I could have a billboard, I would say be proud. Be proud of all of the things you've accomplished so far in your life. I think it's hard in this world, in this environment where when you have social media, you're constantly compare yourself to other people and their progress, where they're at. You want things that you might not have. But I think we need to pause, step aside, and think about all of the accomplishments we've able to achieve so far in our lives, right? And sometimes we forget to celebrate our own personal wins and our own personal accomplishments. Everyone has their own unique story. Everyone has their own unique goal. And I think at the end of the day, we need to be kind, not only be kind to other people, but also be kind to yourself. Sometimes we put ourselves last, and at the end of the day, you're the one that really matters, right? And that's not to sound selfish, but I think when you stay true and authentic to your true self, and you can be proud of your own little wins and your own accomplishments, that vibe, that energy will resonate with those around you. And, and people want to see you win. So I think one message to everybody is just to be proud of where you're at today. You've come so far, especially surviving this pandemic. We're going into 2021 with a more optimistic outlook. I think if we can continue to inspire and empower each other, I think the community will be much stronger and more loving and more compassionate than what we saw in previous years.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That be proud. I love that. Very just simple, straight to the point. And, be proud of who you are, be proud of where you came from. That's very, very important. So I think growing up Asian American first generation, I, for a very long time, tried to suppress where I came from. And I've learned in recent years to just be proud of who I am, and just, it's what makes me who I am. And that's what makes me different. And all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think growing up in the Asian American community, where you may not have all the same resources like your peers, you kind of get insecure about yourself, right? And your worth, and you try to fit in. And I think that's a struggle growing up for so many different Asians. But I think as you're older and wiser, your circle starts to get a little bit smaller and smaller. You want to keep the more quality, authentic people in your life, right? Because you want to surround yourself with positive people who are going to uplift you and empower you. And you realize that trying to fit in actually doesn't work. You just got to be true to yourself. And you're right. Your challenges, the adversities that you dealt with growing up, your humble roots actually made your story more unique, right? It defined who you are, shaped your character, and actually made you much more resilient in life. So I think similar to you, I felt a little bit, I guess, embarrassed growing up, not having all of the brand name designer things like some of my peers had. But now looking back, none of that really matters. Because at the end of the day, it's all about your authenticity, your heart, your commitment to helping other people, your authenticity, because all that material stuff you can buy anytime, but it really doesn't matter underneath the surface.
And it's funny that you say that, growing up and not having the brand name stuff that everybody else had. So one of the things that I still to this day gripe about is never owning a Barbie, like a Mattel Barbie.
I didn't have one either. I had the Mattel Barbies.
I had the dollar store ones where the head just snaps off as soon as you turn it, just like this way. And so like my mom would never buy me one, and I'm just, and then of course my little brother comes along and he has every single Power Ranger color known to mankind. But for me, I grew up never owning a Barbie doll, and one of my good friends growing up had, I don't know if you remember, but it was a tropical hair Barbie where it was like really long hair, and they had like the blonde version and they had like the Islander version. I wanted the Islander version so bad because like that was one of the first dolls that ever really looked like us. There were similarities between looking like us. And so I to this day, and I think she's Japanese because her name's Miko, to this day, it's sitting in my eBay cart and it's just sitting there. But I'm like, it's like kind of like a message and a nudge to myself, like that I could buy it if I really wanted to, but do I really want it anymore? Am I just going to buy a box Barbie and let it sit there on my shelf, or what am I really going to do with it? But it's kind of like a message to myself and a nudge to like the successes that I've done in life, but it's just sitting in my eBay cart. It's just there.
That's so funny.
But yeah, just, I tell my daughter every day, I was like, I've never owned a Barbie doll. I was like, yes, Mom, I know, I've heard the story. And then the other day, cleaning her room, and she has a Barbie doll, and she goes, Mom, you know what I love most about this Barbie doll? And I was like, what's that? She goes, it's like the written in black letter, the number 5 on the chest, because it was purchased at a thrift store.
Oh, really?
And I was just like, I was looking at her like, because my mom takes her to the thrift store all the time growing up. And so I'm thinking like, this is just like an old childhood toy of hers. And I was just like, did I buy that? Or did your grandma buy that? And I'm just like, you see, your mom was so good that like, I made sure that I supplied you with Barbies, even if they were from the thrift store, they're still Barbies.
They're still Barbies, right?
And then she was like, no, Mom, Grandma bought me this. And I'm like, darn. I was taking credit for something else. I was like, see, well, now she's gotten better. She'll only buy me the Dollar Tree ones, but here you are receiving the thrift store ones.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was so cute. It was just like, and that just happened last night because she's cleaning her room.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't think my daughters appreciate as much either. They're still too young to understand and make that connection. But yeah, they have the Barbie doll dream house. I don't know how many Barbies they have. And I tell them all the time, hey, your mommy only had 4 Barbie dolls, not even 4 generic Barbies that I got from my Happy Meals from McDonald's.
Yeah.
And I only had those 4 my entire childhood. And looking back, I was so grateful for even those 4 little Barbies, right? Because they were my only toys at the time. I remember cutting their hair, hoping that they would grow back, and they never did. So I ended up having bald Barbie dolls. But that's the imagination of us children. We don't think about the other stuff. But I look back. I still appreciate my childhood nonetheless, even with the very little that we had.
Yes. No, we had great upbringings. I think, like looking back, I realized that all the trials and tribulations and the struggles of growing up and feeling like I'm different and I'm not blonde hair, blue eyes, or I don't look like my friends in school. I packed different lunches for field trips, all those little things really make me appreciate just who I am today and the resiliency that came with it, so. All right. So sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Is there anything that I should have asked that I haven't asked yet that you would like to discuss before we wrap up the show?
I can't think of anything. I mean, the only thing that maybe most people don't know is I'm scared of dogs. And that's it. Really random story is I have a fear of dogs because I was bit when I was 4 years old, and for some reason I can never kick that phobia. I think dogs are absolutely adorable from afar, but if they get within like a couple of feet within me, like I have like this nervousness that rushes over me. But my kids are asking for dogs, so I think we're gonna have to figure out how to kick that phobia here soon. So
they can just come visit Auntie Jasmine in Miami, and they can sleep over at my house while you stay at the hotel, because I've got 3 dogs, and lots of other animals.
That's
So
why I
yeah.
haven't been to your home yet.
So, but we'll make it happen. We'll have to make it happen
We
soon.
will. We will.
All right. So how can Comfort Kills followers find you?
Yes, you can visit my Instagram page, inspired by Niza. That's N like Nancy, inspired by Niza. And you can find that information on Comfort Kills. Also, I'm available on LinkedIn. So for those that just want to connect, love to always meet new people. And if you ever want some mentorship or some insights on my experiences, whether it be wealth management, education, motherhood, passion projects, I love being able to share my insights with other people. So don't feel shy about reaching out whenever you'd like.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Niza, for spending your day with me.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm so excited we were finally able to connect, and I'm so excited about the future projects that you have going on. So definitely let's stay in touch and let me know, and I'll update our guests accordingly too.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.